So I kind of was waiting to see what would happen when we got February's numbers in terms of like sales and things like that. Also, obviously, we're going to wait for the NPD results and things like that for a little bit more confirmation on what's going on. But February would be the real kind of test to see if people are largely ignoring Xbox consoles now. And again, I get it. Microsoft isn't solely focused on console sales, but you still have console that you're trying to sell. So, to me, it still makes sense to go out there and try to do your best to sell your console to people. Like that should be a given. Now, when it comes down to them being able to actually go out there and do that, that's another thing entirely. You have to start to wonder, like, this is the thing that I was worried about, because if sales just continue dropping and dropping, is there really something out there that kind of indicates that maybe Microsoft should stop making consoles altogether? Maybe there just is no want for an Xbox. Like for me, when people bring up, oh, well, consoles, they've given up over in Europe because they can't sell anything. You know what I say? I say, you know what? The Wii U sold 15 million units. Did Nintendo just give up? They didn't. They didn't give up. They came out with the Switch, and now they're probably going to break the all-time record for console sales, right? You just have to be inventive. You have to, stick with it. Microsoft, it seems like, according to a lot of people that live in like European places, don't advertise. They don't do anything with Xbox over there. And, even in America, they have fallen behind. So this is very interesting. Let's get into it a little bit more and talk about what this potentially means for the future of Xbox. So keep in mind that what's very interesting is this is across Europe during February of this year. Technically a rise of 21.2% over the previous February. However, February 24 was a 5-week month, whereas it was a 4-week month in 2023. So if we compare this year's numbers to the same 5-week period in 23, sales are actually down very, very slightly, 0.1%. It's still a strong result. Last February saw the release of Hogwarts Legacy, which was a major smash hit. To give you an idea of just how big Hogwarts launch was, its sales after 5 weeks was greater than the entire top 10 for February this year. It's also worth noting that Palworld, which would have been a big performer in February, isn't included in the data as that developer isn't tracked, so it's not unreasonable to think that February 24 was actually bigger than 23. So, keep that in mind as well. I'm not sure why some of these companies aren't tracked or don't choose to be tracked or whatever, but clearly Palworld had a pretty big number attached to it as well. So GSD tracks all games sold via physical retail in most major European markets and digital sales from most major AAA publishers in all European markets. So the big standout for the month was Helldivers 2 from Sony. The game released simultaneously on PC and PS5, and over 56% of its sales came on the PC side. It also just kept on selling. Sales for the game increased 70% in its second week, then over 3% in its third week. It has slowed down since, but only slightly, with sales fall of 28% in week 4. As comparison, most games drop in sales after 1 week, with falls of between 60 and 80% being the norm. So Helldivers ended up being one of those games that really, I think, benefited by word of mouth. Everybody was talking about it, and they made a fun game. I mean, even with the issues that were there, it was just a fun game. So to give a sense of how the game is done, after 4 weeks, its sales are tracking 5% behind what Sony previous blockbuster Spider-Man 2 managed to achieve. Of course, Spider-Man 2 had a higher price point and was only available on PS5. So EA Sports FC also did well. They're kind of talking about some of this as well. Final Fantasy VII Remake, which makes number 39 in the charts. Despite a strong critical reception, the second part, Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, didn't match performance of the first game, with opening week sales down 23%, including sales of the double pack. Of course, Remake arrived on a different platform with a bigger install base, which was the PS4, had over 100 million at that point, and also launched during the early weeks of COVID-19 lockdowns when games were in higher demand. Compared to last year, Final Fantasy, well, this is kind of just all kind of pointless. Skull and Bones made number 9, 30% lower when compared to Sea of Thieves, managed at the same point in 2018. Of course, Sea of Thieves is coming to PlayStation, whatever. Outside of the top 10, Suicide Squad at number 12. It performed well below expectations. Sweet Baby Inc., I think, really kind of killed that game, and also the idea that they made the game, a games as a service. Like, I think that some of the single player components are okay, but realistically, they can do better than that. Anyway, this is the interesting part is console sales have dipped. GSD doesn't track all European markets when it comes to console sales. The two major markets missing are Germany and the UK. So the UK being Microsoft's second biggest area, but for the territories that are included, almost 475,000 game consoles were sold in February. Technically, this is 11% up over the year before, but again, this is due to 5 weeks versus 4 week period. If we compare the 5 weeks, sales are actually down 14%. All three main platforms posted sales drop in February. PS5 is the most resilient, with sales down just 2%. Switch, which was just turned 7 years old, is down 17%, while Xbox continues to struggle with Xbox Series S and X, with sales down 47% in terms of accessories, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, 47%, right? Like, that's kind of crazy in my opinion, that that things are kind of down that much. It just is incredible to kind of think that happened. When we look back at the consoles themselves, you can look and see that PS5 was the lead, and this is the UK data that they were pointing to. PS5, the leading platform, sales were down 2% and 28% year on year. Nintendo Switch takes the second spot, with Series X and S in third. Both platforms saw big drops over the same period in 23. Currently, the entire console business is down 29%. So yeah, again, we keep seeing that Xbox is down across the board. It's and it's never really up. So I mean, I think that is a bit of a problem. And then when you look at this and you go, okay, well, realistically, what can Microsoft do? Well, I think, I was interested in seeing how this kind of thing worked out, because, are people realistically going to avoid Xbox from now on because of the situation with the exclusives? They think exclusives are going to come to, PlayStation at some point. Is that actually going to be a thing that happens? I don't know. It's but there's a lot of people, and you see some influencers kind of talk about consoles selling less, games going multi-platform, and then they kind of just play it down or whatever. So, again, I really want to just kind of talk about that. I think that Microsoft maybe didn't expect the backlash, but you have to understand that we live in a day and age of, the fast social media, the TikToks and the Instagram videos and all that kind of stuff. So what happens is, thousands of people are making TikToks on how Xbox is irrelevant and they're going to go out of business because they give up all their exclusives. Now, they maybe aren't intended to give up all their exclusives, right? Because I think it would personally be absolutely foolish and kind of a death note to do that. And maybe they're not, right? Maybe they just wanted to put these I highly doubt it, but, maybe they just wanted to put these, 4 or 5 games over there and see what happens. But people are going to believe that, it's just one of those things that more are going to come, and it probably will. So there's that lack of excitement that you would normally get, and I think that is killing the sales of Xbox. And who knows? I mean, we'll have to see what happens, but it's if the Switch is selling so many, it might break the all-time record, and the PS5 is outpacing the PS4, which did incredibly well, then the only one really struggling is Xbox. So, I mean, they're the ones that are going to have to figure this stuff out before it's too late. But I'm not sure if there is actually anything they can do to win gamers back at this point. They kind of already made their own bed or what have you. And it's really, really unfortunate, because I actually think the Xbox Series X is a hell of a console, and they've got a lot of good stuff on the horizon. So, it is, kind of one of these weird situations that's kind of going on. I don't understand. So maybe you guys understand. So I hope to see, what's going on in the future. But I don't know what they can do to win anybody back at this point. Maybe you guys know. Maybe you guys can kind of chime in and let me know what you think. What can Microsoft do to win you over? That would be pretty cool. So thanks for watching. Peace.